Yeah, when you guys are making the episodes, about how much of your contact is like across the computer, and how much of it is actually talking to one another?
100% of it is over the computer. It's all over the computer.
This weekend is the first time we've ever met in person in 2 years. I'm serious.
Man, how far they have come. TeamFourStar. Love them or hate them, you can't disagree that they have had quite a bit of influence. If you were around during the quote-unquote golden age of Abridging, TeamFourStar, currently consisting of Kaiser Neko, Lanny Pator, Takahata 101, and many others contributing to their mainstay show Dragon Ball Z Abridged, these guys were rising stars. Many who are familiar with these creators will know that Dragon Ball Z Abridged is a parody of the original show Dragon Ball Z, following mostly the same storyline, condensing and adding a somewhat comedic tone to the original source material through changes in the scripts and sometimes outright reworkings of the original characters. Throughout the years, TeamFourStar can arguably be attributed to the rise of many well-established Abridgers later in the game, and some may say that their series was the tip of the metaphorical iceberg needed to reignite the Dragon Ball fandom to the points where new movies and series were commissioned. As somebody who went around interviewing Abridgers and content creators around the time of TIBA, an abridging competition that TeamFourStar hosted, I can tell you from personal experience, TeamFourStar are idolized, not just by Abridgers, but by general fans of Dragon Ball Z.
Very curious, who has seen the original Dragon Ball Z Movie 7 Super Android 13?
Abridging, regardless if you consider it fair use or not, is a celebration of the source material. But now, DBZA, I believe, has become more than something to elevate the members of TeamFourStar. I believe it's become an anchor, stopping them from swimming up and to better things. As we lead up to the final parts of episode 60 and the end of the Cell Saga, I believe it's about time that they unshackled themselves and left it behind. Let me explain why I think that TeamFourStar should stop Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Now, before you go on up in an uproar, Dragon Ball Z Abridged is not confirmed to be ending. But if you follow the main members of the group through social media, you wouldn't be the only one with suspicions, as there have been some hints. I mean, these guys have been making DBZA for 10 years. You're bound to get a wee bit tired doing this eventually. And you can see that that may be what they're trying to communicate. No artist should forever be relegated to one piece of art. If we compare this series to the likes of Family Guy and The Simpsons or any other show that lasted beyond its peak, you can see a decline in quality, or straying away from the project's original vision beyond a certain point.
But is DBZA past its prime in the first place? That is entirely up to you. But some who believe this may point to a couple of factors.
We could look to the community it came from. Many who may have come from the abridged community may mention that abridging as a fad came and went.
This fizzling out can be attributed to increased copyright issues on YouTube. YouTube's algorithm change that doesn't favor content that takes a longer time to produce, or even that abridging as a content model for a business is unsustainable. But I'll touch on that point in a bit.
TIBA, which served as an injection of adrenaline to the creation of this kind of content, was just that, a brief source of adrenaline. And while there are still some making content and communities that have formed because of it, many seem to have drifted away, with only a few groups having continued this kind of content for an extended amount of time. Some may point to the writing of DBZA as an example of its declining quality.
Plenty will find it cliché when someone says, "I prefer the earlier episodes."
And as much as a sense of humor is entirely up to the individual, there is a visible change in how the creators began treating the source material later on in the series. I recall this tweet from Kaiser Neko. polling to see whether or not people wanted more storytelling in Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Once TeamFourStar started adding original cutscenes that use expanded lore to tug at people's heart and nostalgia strings, it became clear to me that Dragon Ball Z Abridged had evolved into something more than a simple parody. Regardless though, we can't contest that even for the years to come, as long as TeamFourStar hosts Dragon Ball Z Abridged in some way, they will continue to have a target on their back, whether people think that's fair or not.
And that's where the next point comes in. Copyright has been a consistent issue for any and all abridgers. Online, there is a definite misunderstanding of what exactly fair use is, and people get their understanding from how other people interpret fair use law. Now, I wouldn't claim to be a copyright lawyer in any sense, but what I can say is that fair use is a defense, not a right. Which means, if a company were to send a cease and desist, or worse, take you to court, you better lawyer up, buddy. It's up to you to prove your innocence. And lawyers cost money.
Abridging has always been a gray area in many people's eyes. But regardless if you think if Dragon Ball Z Abridged is a fair use parody or not, the cease and desist they received in regards to their now taken down Attack on Titan parody is proof that they are not ready for a lawsuit.
TeamFourStar are very limited in what they can create and earn money from. If Dragon Ball Z Abridged had been an original project, we could see areas unexplored, but with a constant shadow over their shoulder, they don't know what areas they can and cannot go onto. Even if you count the limited monetization avenues, how TeamFourStar earn their money is very simple. As a group, they create abridged series, such as Hellsing Ultimate Abridged or Dragon Ball Z Abridged. They don't monetize these series, but what they do is use it to direct to other content that they can monetize. But even if you count the other channels, the limited monetization avenues that they use for their flagship show, it's not exactly enough. TeamFourStar have put themselves into a position where they rely on different IPs that consistently restrict and threaten how they make money.
Their biggest attraction could also eliminate years of hard-earned subscribers. Passive viewers may not find their way back to the channel if it goes down. We all hear of how YouTubers are overworked and that the ad revenue that they primarily rely on for income varies so much. I can't imagine what TeamFourStar have to go through given that they can't rely on that primary source of income because they can't monetize their flagship series. The right holders of these IPs hold them in the palm of their hand. TeamFourStar need a full-time income for an increasing amount of freelance staff, and not just that, the future of their careers as voice actors and content creators lies in the balance. I have no doubt that if TeamFourStar were to move on to new works, they will still be known by a select few as the DBZA guys. However, you can tell they're trying to become more than that.
In fact, anyone who ventures to their Patreon can see outright that that money goes to expanding or hiring new folks to help us work on new content. I can't help but compare this situation to one of a similar creator who came out with his frustrations in a manner that was not positively received. This creator was Yaroshin. Back in 2017, Yaroshin, primarily known for his abridged series of the anime Danmachi, released a video expressing how he was frustrated that the audience he had attracted through that series were not watching his other content.
Listen, I'm going to be very forward and very honest right now because I feel like that's the only way I'm going to just get it out there. First of all, Abridging does not pay the fucking bills. Any other video that I can possibly make can be monetized. However, I cannot do that with Abridged series. Give me one good reason why I should only stick to just Abridging, because let's be honest, if I did, I would not be here. I would not live in this room, I will not have a computer, I will not have much of fucking anything. Like I said, I've often thought about quitting Abridging in order to pursue my career as a voice actor, as a sound effect designer, as a professional photographer. But to be honest, I like YouTube and I like Abridging too much I like doing these things, but for fuck's sake, it's really hard to do it when people just want to say you should stick to only one thing and one thing only. And that really, really pisses me off.
After uploading the angry video in which he aired his frustrations, the video got panned by peers and general viewers alike, with a common theme in the comments of "Stop being ungrateful for the position you're in."
Stop asking me to do the main thing on my channel. Stop asking me to do what you came here for. Okay? It's driving me insane, and you should be able to support me in no matter what I do, because you're not here for the videos. You're here for me. I'm the reason you're here. I'm the reason that anybody does things.
Yaroshin, in an interview, related to me the struggle that he now found himself in.
Like, trust you me, if I just stopped making an abridging thing right now, that's it. I don't get to live on my own. I have to move back in with my parents. I'm a 24-year-old man who would end up having to go back into his parents' house and, like, cry myself to sleep at night because I can't fucking move on. I don't want to make abridging things forever. If you walk up to any abridger and you ask them what their real goals are, they're not going to sit there and say, to make an abridged fucking thing forever. It's not going to happen, and fans don't understand that, because fans want to believe what they want to believe. The equivalence of what they believe is us being selfish for wanting to move on from that content, as it is them being selfish for wanting us and forcing us to stick to the content that they want.
Yaroshin took the video down and then later uploaded a video called "I'm Not Quitting," where he responded to the backlash.
Now, as much as I don't agree with Yaroshin's methods of expressing himself in this situation, I can't help but feel for him. He feels trapped by his audience. He relies on this income as the only way he can pursue his dream as a content creator. And if he tries to express himself in other ways, that income may fade, and in his eyes, so may his dream as a content creator. This is the situation that TeamFourStar finds itself in.
TeamFourStar have never shied away from their desire to expand, but DBZA will always hinder or threaten everything they've worked for. And when they decide to end Dragon Ball Z Abridged, they will suffer a blow. The problem with animations or serialized fictional content is that not everyone is going to care about the person behind the production. Unlike persona-based content, fans become attached to the fictional content rather than the ones moving the strings. There's no question that a percentage of people who support TFS through YouTube, and I would suggest even Patreon, are only doing it to further the production of DBZA, even if their Patreon expresses otherwise. Kaiser has openly admitted it was the only thing keeping them afloat during the adpocalypse. So, if the Patreon wasn't there to allow them to operate, do you think that they would continue DBZA?
Many have speculated that the end of the Cell Saga, end of episode 60, will be the end of Dragon Ball Z Abridged. That could be the reason why you've seen them create a huge amount of content for after the release of episode 60. Multiple new series have been teased. Final Fantasy VII Machine Abridged will be releasing again. A new podcast in the form of 4-Star Bento. An original dubbing of a Madhouse product?
Paused, which actually I'm confused by. They say they're dubbing it, and some of their guys are in the cast, but it says Sound Cadence is actually dubbing it, and TFS is merely production assistants, which could literally mean that their cast was just involved. That could mean that they don't actually gain a percentage of the profits for this. It's confusing, but let's assume for now that the group benefits if Hell succeeds.
Look, it was probably a question in your mind, but I mean, truth be told, I want Dragon Ball Z Abridged to end. Not because I don't think it's funny anymore, or because I think the end of the Cell Saga would be a great artistic place to end, but because I want TeamFourStar to take the next step in their careers. I idolize TeamFourStar. But I believe as long as they are somewhat attached to Dragon Ball Z, they will constantly
be on unsure footing. And that's not just because of the looming threat of copyright claims. I believe they need to finish up and move on and become either of or both of two things. Either a network for different types of content, for example like Screw Attack or Rooster Teeth, which they seem to be trying to become by acquiring Fistmaster, hosting 4-Star Bento, TFS Gaming, etc. Or they need to break into the professional scene by becoming an official dubbing house, talent agency, or production company. Now, look, I believe they will do this. But the question is, should they? TeamFourStar rose to prominence because of this type of content, and we have seen on YouTube how creators can successfully and unsuccessfully transition to new types of content. They are receiving substantial support from their Patreon, and despite what I said earlier, they're not poor. Members of TFS have said they want to diversify their content, and if they want to do other things, shouldn't they have the right to do so, even if it endangers their current source of income, or if it's not what a section of the audience wants? What do you think? Do you think that if they were to move away from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, are they in a safe enough position to do so? Well, here's what I predict will happen. Once episode 60 of DBZA ends, it will go on an indefinite hiatus, but won't end outright. This is in case they find the need to return to it if things don't work out, or in case they want to spark interest in a new project down the road. Once DBZA ends, I think their Patreon may take a hit, but not necessarily immediately. It may decrease over a certain period of time. TFS will double down on their current lineup of content, hoping that they turn out to be profitable. The projects that will be successful, I think, will be Final Fantasy VII Mission Abridged and TFS Gaming. They'll keep getting around the same number since they have gained an audience of their own at this point. And the dub of Hells will also prove to be a success. I think enough of TFS's fandom will support their first dub, and potentially prove to many doubters that those who are involved with TFS have potentially an even bigger following than current anime voiceover celebrities. An active following is always good for business. Then, TFS will need another long-term project to attach itself to, and hopefully, this is an anime series that they dub. They need a project with a big turnover. However, if they don't get the return they need on these projects, they'll come back to DBZA. But the series and the team won't be the same. Abridging is a stepping stone. At the end of the day, Abridging is too volatile to be sustainable for any creator, and even if they find a way to sustain themselves, they can find themselves trapped by it. I don't want that for TeamFourStar. Many Abridgers who I've watched growing up and working alongside have the potential to be so much more, and TFS have the opportunity that some of us dream for. They proved to so many people that breaking into the industry doesn't have to be because of nepotism. Make enough noise, and you'll be noticed. And because I want to believe that they can do this, that they can make the transition from parody makers online to a full-blown dubbing company, I'll support them. I'll buy the DVDs, I'll support them on Patreon. I'll watch their stuff, not because I think they're funny, but because I want to believe that they can do this. I believe in TeamFourStar, and I'll still be cheering them on, even after DBZA ends. The big question is, will you?